Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Today is going to be a part two episode where I'm talking with my great friend, Steve Gentner. He's an Overstreet advisor. He's just all around awesome guy with an awesome collection. So, we're really going to kind of delve into a bit more about his stories that he has about some of the cool books in his life. And also, he's going to show some pretty amazing books as always. So, without further ado, one sec. Welcome to the show. Hi,
Hello.
Steve. Okay, so so this is really fun. So eventually, we're going to have a part three, and we're going to get the room tour, the $1 million tour.
Million
You
dollar
know.
crowded room.
So yeah, it'll be fun. So I actually want you to tell the story because you told me. Steve tells me all like I hope you don't mind me calling. I always shorten people's names. Like, you know,
Steve is fine.
eventually I'm just gonna call you S after a while. But
Thanks.
but
Hey, you.
hey you, Unga. Okay, so, so yeah, so it's like one of those things like uh you were telling me so many great stories. I actually really do enjoy your abusive story. I don't know how else to refer to it. But can you tell that story and just like enlighten my audience
All
about?
right. Well, the abusive, it's rather personal, Alan. I had said in episode one, I talked about how my grandparents' house, I found the cover to World's Finest #6. And
Mhm.
I had to look for it. And what my grandmother had done is she had taken the cover, she just ripped it off and used it as a divider for her art projects. And then I looked for the book, I could never find it. And then I
Mhm.
ended up buying World's Finest, was the first set or Golden Age I went after because I had to find out what happened behind the cover of World's Finest 6.
Yeah, yeah.
One other story we had, I have, which was really my father had survivors of his books. Some
Mhm.
of them were King Comics, which I still have, and they're absolute tatters, but they were his.
Mhm.
Other books that he had a Big Shot that had a Sparky Watts story and also Skyman. And
Oh, that's
Skyman
cool.
was really mystified me. I'm like, wow, Skyman, what's that?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
But also, he had a Superman comic, which was, it turns out, and it's another story. It turns out it was Superman #17 that
Oh,
had
nice.
the Fortress of Solitude and the center spread. And
Mhm.
I looked at that book forever. We just read it over and over and over. We just loved that book. And of
Mhm.
course, all of those, the Sparky Watts and the Superman 17 and all the other ones, all went out with my mother threw all my books away in 1962 or 1963. Oh, and by the way, uh, we had the world's the exposition here in 1904, 1905,
Mhm.
which celebrated Lewis and Clark coming across. And there was a big celebration in St. Louis where they started, and there was one
Yeah,
out
the
here.
flight of
We
St.
had
Louis. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
down in the industrial section, they had built this enormous fair. And one of the things they did was they went out into the Oregon forest and they cut down first growth timber. This is 1904, 1905, world's largest log cabin.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was like a cathedral. They moved it from the industrial Northwest over into the nearer Northwest, over by a
Mhm.
store, a store called Montgomery Ward, their big store. And it
Okay.
sat there, and it was a temple. You went in there, and it was sort of hazy up above, and these tall timbers arching over and stuff. It was godlike. It was amazing. Well,
Mhm.
anyway, some arson in 1963 or 4. So my mom throwing my books away was probably 64. Um, the fire was so hot, it burned this thing, and
Okay.
hunks of wood were falling down on my parents' house up in
Oh my
Portland.
goodness.
Hunks of wood. And so it was all over the driveway. It was all over everywhere because the place was so enormous. And
Mhm.
so my brother and I, of course, we got jars and we filled with these hunks of it. The fire was so hot, all the moisture in the hunk of wood
Mhm.
was just gone. It was light as a feather. It was just like
Oh, so it's like
lighter
almost
than
like
balsa.
charcoal or something? Like kind of
Well,
like
no, it was like balsa wood, but
okay.
it was dark, but it wasn't burnt. It was just incredible. Well,
Mhm,
anyway, all that got thrown away at the same time. Things that we would have loved to have had. But
mhm.
anyway, thanks, Mom. Anyway, so back to my grandmother and abuse. My sister had German measles, and she got deaf in one ear.
Okay.
And so when my grandparents put in a swimming pool, Corinne always had to be real careful about wearing earplugs and nose plugs and stuff because she had to make sure that she didn't hurt their other ear.
Mhm,
So we're sitting in the living room and she's playing the piano. They had a Chickering piano. My grandmother would play these 20s tunes, creaky old tunes. I wish I would have paid more attention. And Corinne says, "Well, I'm going to go swimming now." And so I'm sitting in a chair, and in my hands was the best book of the survivors my dad had, and it was
mhm.
Whiz Comics #1. And
Wow.
it had the cover, and it was in very nice condition. Even to my untrained eye, it was
Mhm.
nice, and I was reading it really carefully because I
Yeah,
always.
because it's a Grail book. Yeah.
Oh, well, of course, in 1963 or whatever it was, I
Mhm.
didn't know Golden Age. I just knew that it was a cool book.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm reading this thing, and so I said, "Well, go ahead, Corinne, go swimming." She says, "I can't find my earplugs." I said, "I don't have them," and I
Mhm,
didn't
yeah.
have them. And she
Mhm.
says, "Yes, you took them, so I can't go swimming." I said, "Corinne, I don't have them. I don't have them." And my grandmother's out in the kitchen. She hears that, so she comes out, and my sister could do no wrong with Corinne. She says, "What's
Mhm.
going on?" And Corinne says, "Steve took my earplugs, and I can't go swimming because of my bad ear, and I can't go. And Steve won't let me get." And so Grandma says, "What did you do with them?" And I said, "Grandma, I don't have them. I don't have them."
Mhm.
She comes walking over to me. She says, "I'll ask you again. Where are Corinne's earplugs?" "I don't have them." She grabbed the Whiz comics from me. She rolled it up tightly into a baton and
Mhm.
proceeded to wail the hell out of the backs of my legs. I'm going, "Grandma,
I'm
I
less
don't have it."
when
And
hearing this story, just so you know, I'm less worried about you and more worried about the comic.
well, the funny thing about it was hitting me on the backs of my calves. I was not a faint child. And
Mhm.
so I was bummed out because she's busting my book up, Dad's book up, even more so.
Yeah, yeah.
So Corinne, she beat me for a while. Finally, she stopped, and Corinne looked around and said, "Oh, Grandma, here they are. I have them." So Grandma just dropped the book on the deck and walked
Mhm.
over and said, "Okay, Corinne, let's go." "No, I'm sorry. No, I
Yeah,
had it wrong. No, gee whiz, Steve, I'm so sorry." Nothing.
yeah.
I was charged, tried, convicted, and executed. And I looked down, and the comic book was torn to shreds. It was just
Mm.
torn to shreds. And I looked at it, and then the next time I came over, that book had been thrown away. Of course, it was trashed
Wow.
anyway. But
Mhm.
that's my Whiz One story.
Wow. Such a very expensive, beating that you took.
Well, the thing is, and in families, sometimes those things happen. And Grandma was
Mhm.
certainly old school.
Oh, that
Uh,
sounds very old school. Like, that sounds like
very
my
old
grandma,
school.
actually. My grandma would be like that. She'd be like kind of the what, like, like to pull your ear kind of.
I'll tell you, that'll get your attention.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was that story. And I would like to show you guys something here. When I traded my collection away for a trade credit
Mhm.
to a dealer, I went up to his place to go shopping, my childhood collection. And in his kitchen on the wall was this Captain America Schomburg painting.
Such a great painting, by the way. And that's Hitler, right?
What's that?
Is that Hitler? The in
No,
front of
no,
the
no.
firing
It's not
squad?
Hitler. It's the firing squad cover. It's Captain America #29.
Okay.
Okay.
It almost looks like Hitler in front of the guys with the rifles.
Well,
That's why.
Schomburg definitely made him a kraut. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But in any event, so I said, "Oh, wow, look at that. Is that for sale?" He says, "Well, yeah, but you really probably wouldn't want it." I said, Wouldn't want it. It's a Schomburg. And he painted it? Yeah, he painted it. I said, I've never seen anything like that. Well, we went around and around and around and around. He says,
Hmm.
it's gonna be awfully expensive, Steve. I said, I understand.
Hmm.
And so he says, well, I said, come on. I mean, you're playing around with me too much.
Yeah,
Tell
yeah, yeah.
me,
A little bit better.
sell the thing to me. And so finally he says, well, he says, I would sell it to you, but my wife loves this painting. She loves it. And
Hmm.
I'll get in trouble if I sell it. I said, oh, well, in that case, whereupon at that point, his wife comes in the house from shopping.
Hmm.
And she comes in and we introduced ourselves. How are you? Very nice. She looked up at that painting. She says, when are you going to get rid of that thing?
So I think it was
And
a sales tactic.
I looked at him and I said, dude, you are so busted. He says, all
Hmm.
right, I'll sell it to you. So how I got that's how I got it. And the story on that was uh, another story is the big All American Comic Books convention here in Portland. When
Hmm.
Alex Schomburg came as a guest and did the artwork for the program and did some other original silkscreen things that are beautiful,
Hmm.
that's a whole different story. But what that did was the book Chroma is written about the guys that went to that convention, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
loved Schomburg and they wondered what had ever happened to him. By the way,
Hmm.
we had talked also earlier about the nutty stuff they sell at conventions,
Yeah,
tattoos, bat lifts,
yeah,
fantasy swords, bric-a-brac, that. So
yeah.
because there's
Funko
lesser and
Pops
less
and everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of the. And one of them was that there was this group of people that were selling fezzes, and they were the wildest, funniest people. And there were
Hmm.
two cons in Portland that year, and they set up at both. And at the second con, I said, those are just so funny. So they had a big range of things they had. The two that I liked the best, though, were the flying monkeys from The Wizard of Oz.
Hmm.
And the other one is Cthulhu. So
Oh, I like this.
I have Cthulhu on another one, but it's a great crash hat. And so I thought I'd wear it just as testament to that because I'm such a
Hmm.
whack guy. So um, Schomburg signed the back of it after the convention here in
Hmm.
town. The public became aware of that Alex, first of all, was still alive. Second
Hmm.
thing was that the interest in all of his work in World War II and the Golden
Yeah,
Age
I kind of spiked after that time. Yeah.
rekindled tremendously.
Hmm.
And so what he did was he was started doing paintings. They call them recreations, but they're not. They're actual original paintings. Um,
Hmm.
and one of the things about it that he loved about being able to do these was that all the colors are accurate. And this
Okay.
drove him crazy with the colorists that would color. The Germans would have pink helmets and yellow uniforms,
Yeah.
pink guns,
Hmm.
engines that are bright red and green. I mean, he was far more technically. He wanted the colors to be correct because he was
Hmm.
had a very perfectionist nature. So
Hmm.
this was one of the recreations, quote unquote, that
Hmm.
he did. He signed the back of it, and it was produced between. He painted it from September through October in 1987.
Okay.
And this particular painting sold at auction through an outfit called the Howard Lowry Auctions. And he sold, I think, almost all of these, if not all, almost all of these
So how
paintings.
many of these are there? Like
There's
different
quite a
ones?
few. There's 20 or 30.
Okay, it's not that many. It's not like
No, no,
there's.
no, no. I mean, because they took a while to make.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he was in his 80s when he was doing these anyway. He was born, I think, turn of the century.
Hmm.
So this sold June 14th of 1992 for $2,860 to
Wow.
my
Comic
guy.
shop guy.
And this was in 92. And so that gives you an idea of when this
Yeah.
stuff was transferred, because I traded him in 88. So then, and then of course his wife completely blew him out of the water.
Yeah,
That was
yeah, yeah.
the funniest, the look on his face, and I had him dead to
Yeah,
rights.
yeah.
There's nothing he could do. I said,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
dude, you're so busted, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I've told you about the terrible abusive life I led, which has left me scarred permanently. I've regaled you on the painting, and if you would like, I would like to
Mhm.
show some books.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's what everyone's here to watch. Everyone wants to
Yeah, the
see the
heck with
good
the
books.
rest of this crap.
Yeah. Nobody cares about us. Show the books.
Speak for yourself.
Okay.
Uh, in collecting Golden Age, one must realize instantly that you cannot collect it all, even though
Hmm.
there is so much wonderful stuff to collect. So I
Hmm.
was trying to figure out where I wanted to focus myself for Golden Age, other than Schomburg. Schomburg was number one,
Yep.
but I always loved because that was the sort of the timely portion, Marvel timely portion.
Hmm.
But for the DC portion, there was Flash and Wonder Woman and Superman and Batman
Hmm.
and Green Lantern, Flash. So what I wanted to do was I finally decided that the one that and always made such an impression on me was Batman,
Yeah.
and
I
so
mean,
I
I think
decided
that's
that I
most
would go
people's
after.
favorite DC.
I'm sorry.
I think Batman is most people's favorite DC character, I would say.
I love Superman too. He was really
Hmm.
cool, but Batman just was better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked the whole idea of Batman and the whole thing, and it was just good. So
Hmm.
I made it a point. So here's the first one,
Hmm. That's a really great one.
and this is the card cover that was
Hmm.
drawn by Fred Ray, and this was done in June, July of 1942.
Nice. It's a great Joker cover too. So it's like I like the fact that the Joker is on the Joker card, and then Batman's on the King card, and Robin's on
The
um,
Jack.
the Jack. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really good.
And I looked long and hard to try to find this book, and I had real problem. By the way, the lovely little bird that's sitting over to my right in picture right,
Hmm.
that is my mother in 1950 at a college fraternity function. Dad was a Theta Xi at Cornell, and he met my mother when she was attending Skidmore. And so here she is, a little bird, lightly clothed, and she's sitting on a tack. You can't beat 1950. So
Yeah,
anyway,
you're
here's
welcome.
here's the and here's this one. So that's that. The next one is another one I had to go to auction for the card cover. Yeah,
Hmm.
another one that I really wanted and looked and looked and looked and looked and couldn't find one was the issue number 7, which is the bullseye cover. And
Oh
I had
yeah,
to go
these are all iconic covers. Yeah, that's really great.
and this is a white pager, uh, and the dark purple bat with the light blue Batman logo with the red and
Hmm.
white concentric rings is just, I mean, I really is one of my really favorite ones. They're all my favorites, but
Hmm.
this one in particular, it was and people wanted it, so I had to, sometimes you have to just step up and pay. I can't
Hmm.
remember what I paid. I know it was top of the market at the time.
Yeah, but now it's probably gone up a lot since then.
It's it's been years since I've
Hmm.
all this stuff I've had for years. So there's that one. This one I was on eBay
Oh,
is
that's really nice.
issue number 6, and it has Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson did the cover.
Yeah, I always like that classic kind of them swooping in kind of look with the capes all flying up and stuff like that. It's really great. Is there anything that's a key as well, isn't it? Is
I don't I don't know that it was is it necessarily a key. I can't remember it being a key.
is there any
Probably
notes that
somebody out there knows, but I was basically going for it. I've read all the interiors because I have all the reprints of the interior, the omnibus, and all that stuff. And it's
Mhm.
so much fun to get immersed where you just follow their adventures along. And at this time,
Does
this
it
is a
say?
bi-monthly. This one is from August, September of 1941, so pre-World War II.
So bi-monthly meaning it came out twice a month,
which meant it came out,
or
well,
every
maybe
2 months?
it's one every 2 months. I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
that's bi-monthly.
I always wonder
I
how that works. I always get that mixed up.
Semi-monthly. Semi-monthly would be, I think, two a month.
Semi-monthly. Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's right.
Oh, there's my son gave me that, the Beatles, introducing the Beatles album. That's the fold out
Oh, I see
cover.
that in the corner there. Yeah, yeah. That's cool.
And one time I had an Aston Martin DB5 that I bought eons ago, and then everything went crazy on that. And then it got to the point it was so valuable, I was afraid to drive it. I had work done on it, and I
Hmm.
finally sold it. But it was a lot of fun. Those pictures were taken out at the Concours d'Elegance that year, probably 1997, I think, something like that.
That's cool.
The next one is the highest graded one I have
I
of the
like that
early,
cover.
and that's Batman number
Number
5.
5. That's really cool.
And this one, the artwork, he doesn't have his bat on his chest, and
Yeah, it's a little strange.
yeah, and but I think that the perspective, he looks like Solomon weighing these criminals and finding them wanting, and
Hmm.
Robin with his hands on his hips and his chest back. Some people say that those two smokestacks are supposed to mean something. I mean, you really gotta
Yeah, it's a little strange.
you gotta be stretching pretty far to get that one. But
Yeah, yeah.
I know, good thing I'm not like that. Okay, so then there's this one. This was the first one that I got, and this is from a collection, the Lake collection, Batman number 4. And Batman 4 is from, this is when they were quarterly,
Okay.
winter of 1940.
Oh, wow.
And this is the content of this cover, to me, is just perfect.
Hmm.
And the Lake brothers, sort of like the Promise collection, they were brothers that collected during the war, World War II, and then one of them went into the service, but he didn't die. But they kept all of these books that very carefully. They collected Jim and John Lake,
Hmm.
and they had a Bat 1. They had a Detective the 31. They had that's where my Pep 17 came from. They
Okay.
had some early Zips and some other there wasn't a voluminous collection, but they were all in very nice shape. And the family finally decided that they were going to sell them. They took them out of the bank, and a buddy of mine took them and had them slabbed, and he got screwed on most of the grades, frankly. This one is a 6, but it's not a 6. It's
It
far
doesn't look
better.
like a 6 to me. It looks much higher.
It's an
Looks more
8.
like an 8 to me,
It
but
is an 8. And the colors and everything else, it's just, is this a white pager? And this is a white pager also.
oh, wow. Wow.
So the idea that this is a 6, I don't know what the problem was, but
But
maybe
it's an old slab, so it's one of those ones that, you probably could, in theory, get it
I
re-slabbed
know,
and
and
regraded.
I probably should, but I'm sort of, I'm very happy that it's. So you'll also notice now, if you would, the cowl, Batman's cowl,
Hmm.
with how short the ears are, the bat ears are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't have like the long, more the pointed ears that we have now. Yeah.
Now, when they started, they were longer, but I will show you because I go a little bit further back here. All right. Now, this is Batman number 3, and this is from the fall of 1940.
That's a book I always like because it's the first true Catwoman. I'm going to stick with that.
There, pretty good. Sorry for the glare, guys. I
Yeah, it's
really
okay.
had
No, it's
girls
great.
too. This was the one that I took, bought it as a 4.0. And then I looked at it and I said, for heavens, that can't be someone else got screwed. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, ridiculous. And I decided to send it to CBCS. and it came back a 6, and it is a 6.
Yeah,
It's,
definitely.
it's a lovely copy. So that was one of the ones where I did reslab because I mean, it was just
Didn't
wrong.
make sense. Yeah.
And the last one I have, I bought this from my friend uh, Chris Simons at I Like Comics in Vancouver, Washington. It's a great store. You might check it online.
Mhm.
And this is from the summer of 1940. And this is Batman #2.
Nice. So that's a pretty good run. 2 to 7. You have straight.
I'm missing one, and uh, but this
This.
one, the oldest gag in the world is pushing someone over somebody who's
Yeah.
sitting behind them. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but you'll notice that the horns, that his cowl has the long spikes, and his eyes are slits, and that
Oh,
straight
okay.
line across, and the way his chin is. So the slits last for a long time as well. But
And then they picked it up
I
later.
wish they would have never changed away from that. And I also like the fact that the logo is what they call the large logos, which go
Hmm.
all the way across the cover. I
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. I think that's cooler.
and I think that the Batman grouping of books.
Hmm.
I know that Alex, the comic hoarder, has been
Hmm.
collecting. He'll collect stuff. Superman is where he put
Yeah.
his
He's been focusing on getting like,
the
well,
one through
one in
two
theory,
through
one
10 or
through.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I tried to get a Batman #1, it was always too expensive.
Yeah. Hmm.
I just could not, and because I wanted to have books that were nice looking, I just could not bring myself to buy one that was a rag and have a copy of the book.
Hmm.
When I was a completist, I certainly would have done it. But the
Hmm.
amount of the monetary outlay in order to get the book was so
Yeah. It's
huge
crazy.
that I just could not justify. And truth be told, if I really wanted to have a Batman #1 now, then I could probably liquidate an enormous amount of stuff, but
Hmm.
and get it. But the problem that not an enormous amount, but a sufficient amount of stuff that I
Hmm.
would basically carve the heart out of my collection to get the Bat One. I don't burn enough for the Bat One to do that. And the
Hmm.
other thing is, on an economic side, I would much rather have my exposure, if you will, financial exposure,
Hmm.
spread out over a number of very nice books rather
Hmm.
than have them all sitting one egg in one basket.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Me
not to
too.
say that Batman #1 will not always be a very valuable book. I'm sure of that. But
Hmm.
the idea of cannibalizing to get it, I just don't burn that much. And 2 through 8 or whatever, 2 through whatever I have, really scratches the itch. I have one other one that I could have shown, but I didn't want to get too long, is the
Hmm.
totem pole cover.
Oh, I like that one.
And
That's one is actually one I want to get because it's the boner one.
the boner story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if you go on YouTube and put the Batman boner story, a guy who sounds like Mark Hamill is reading the lines for the Batman about boners and this boner, that and
Yeah.
boner everything. It's hysterical. And
Mm,
the boner story, but the cover itself is a great Joker cover with the totem pole.
hmm. Yeah, no, I always liked that one, just because of the boner story. I just thought it was so silly that I always wanted to get that one. The other one I liked was it's used in a lot of memes where it's the bat slap.
Where
He
he gets
slaps.
slapped, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got that one, but never got the totem pole one. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, what would you say are like your biggest books in your collection? Like, would you
Well,
say it's the Batman?
these have to be among them.
Did you
Perhaps the
keep
next
any
one.
timelies? Did you keep any of the timely Captain America stuff? Or
I no, I didn't. All my caps went. All of my Marvel mysteries, except for a few, went.
hmm.
I had some Submariners. They all went except for one. I think
Hmm.
it's #17. It's the landing craft cover.
Okay.
That one didn't sell. I'm glad I still have that one. And then
Yeah.
Also, I have, but the thing is, excuse me, you talk yourself dry. Shut up,
Yeah,
Gentner.
I know.
Uh,
Whenever I do my
I,
unboxings, that's always what happens. I like end up with a sore throat because it's like 10 hours of me recording some crazy unboxing video.
the
Um,
marathon.
yeah, it's
But
marathon.
that perhaps then in our next installment, should there be, if the
Hmm.
people would like it, I Good Girl is where I spent a lot of my money
Yeah,
because I just love that genre. The
and you have a
Schomburg, and of
great
course
box collection. Yeah.
Schomburg has the good girl, the Schomburg gal, and various problems. But she's a little bit more cartoony. It's not like watching Wally Wood draw
Hmm.
some or Matt Baker or Jack
Yeah,
Kamen.
yeah.
They're cute and they are damsels, and I love
Hmm.
them. I do, and Feldstein. But the thing about it is, I made an effort to get a lot of the disappearing bra cover of Blue Beetle, the
Hmm.
Brenda Starr where she's
Yeah, on the
handcuffed
radiator.
radiator, which is a
Yeah,
really tough book.
I'm
Um,
actually bidding on that one right now
oh,
as we're recording this one.
good luck.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Cindy, the yellow Cindy that has sort of the tattoo art on the cover,
Hmm.
and any number of Good Girl books. That next time around, I'll pull out some. I have Seven Seas, 4
Oh,
and
nice.
6. I have, and of course,
Phantom
a
Lady.
whole slew of JoJo's and Rula and a lot of the Fox stuff. I have a few. I have the Phantom Lady 17 and 14 and 25. So
Those are
there's I have a whole nother niche. And I was sort of thinking about it last night as I was pulling
mhm.
out these Batmans. I said, I wonder, put side by each the value. I think that the Good Girl stuff is on a par, and
Yeah,
maybe in some instances, maybe even a little bit more, because this is white bread, whereas the Fox stuff is nasty, evil,
yeah.
pre-code,
So,
Dr. Worth spinning.
if it was a situation like, let's say, like, you go back in time and you're on a newsstand, you got to look at a newsstand and there's a whole bunch of magazines on or comics on that newsstand, and there's like a Phantom Lady 17 and a Batman 3 or 4 or whatever it is. I would just by the cover, I would pick the I pick the Phantom Lady every time. Just I'd be like, oh man, that's such a cool book. So.
Well, they really the colors they use on the backgrounds, they just pop off the newsstand, and they're all
Hmm.
crying to be purchased. And that's the
Hmm.
whole idea. That's why when you get a green cover, or in some instances, for example, Amazing Fantasy 15 is a brown cover, kind of a golden brown
Hmm.
cover. Well, you're looking at that, and it's like a Lois Lane that's bright yellow and red, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Superman's got a sword through his head or something, and you're
Hmm.
looking at that, and then you got this sort of dull looking
Yeah, why would you
Spider-Man
buy
guy swinging around. You're just kind of
it?
going, dude, I'll take this, the Lois Lane.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
of course, there you go.
Yeah, you'd be better off buying the other one, but, but
Better off buying both.
yeah, yeah,
The other thing is, a good buddy of mine is a very, very advanced Marvel collector,
hmm,
and he has things that are world class, top of the line, everything,
hmm,
and very, very critical eye. And he admitted to me, he says, I have to say that DC Comics have much better cover colors than Marvel's ever did. You
hmm,
look in the 50s and the 60s and you look at the color schemes and the bright colors of
hmm. They really pop.
the DC colors, and the books the DC made, they were constructed better. The
Hmm,
Marvel stuff was the cheapest, cheesiest stuff they could find because they wanted to sell as many books and they wanted to sell them as inexpensively as possible, which
hmm,
is a business. We talked about that last time too. It was a
hmm.
business. It wasn't like you were trying to, make, Brandenburg Bibles or,
Yeah,
Gutenberg
yeah.
Bibles. What you're trying to make is you're trying to make a buck. And
Hmm,
so, but the fact that the colors that they used and then the bifurcated covers that Marvel had, where it's half and half, the clutter and the word balloons and all that other stuff. It is what
Mhm.
it is, and I love them.
Yeah.
That and it's fine too, and I love them. It's just that I prefer when you look at these golden age covers, and all there is the action. All there
Mhm.
is the image, a portrayal, a portrait of action and wonderfulness. And perhaps I'm old school that way. I am old school.
Mhm.
That is the reason why. I mean, I dig that a lot better. And so,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I kind of wonder, like, I mean, if you look at the golden age, the timelies were like phenomenal. Like they
yes.
were, I mean, they actually, I would say at the time, maybe Marvel was better in terms of some of the
Oh,
covers.
they shined.
Yeah.
No, the timely stuff shined, and most of
Mhm.
it was there would be maybe once there'll be a little word balloon stuff going on, but the
Mhm.
action on the cover, if it was
Like some of those
Schomburg or if it was Kirby
Schomburg, yeah.
or any of a number of them, they
Mhm.
just wonderful stuff, real
Like
great
actually,
stuff.
I've been, sort of debating about buying, getting into some of those timelies and also into some of the Namor stuff, like Submariner stuff, where it's
Oh
like
yeah.
some of it, the early covers of like Submariner are just like phenomenal. Like they're just
Well, when
amazing.
you have what a lot of that had to do with obviously Schomburg, and what
Hmm.
he excelled at doing truly was that he would bend proportion. So you'd
Hmm.
have a Captain America like all select one. You've got them, they're taller, they're standing in a moat above a castle.
Yeah, I know they're like giants. Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
enormous. And then, like the Submariner turning over landing craft, 45 feet tall.
Yeah,
They have
yeah.
another
It's
one
like he's
next to
like
him.
cracking it, and like it looks like as if it's a toy. Yeah, yeah.
It's just it's his ability to bend proportion and make
Hmm.
it work is one of the key things to him. The other thing that is so wonderful about Schomburg is that he sweats the little details. The machines look
Hmm.
like they work, like Kirby in
Hmm.
Fantastic Four and all that. Reed Richards is working on some impossible looking machine, but it's going to
Hmm.
work.
Yeah, yeah.
Schomburg was the same way,
Hmm.
and he would make the machines look like they would work. The torture
Yeah.
devices always had the ratchets and the
Yeah,
gear
you can
levers,
see all
you
the
know.
little like pins and stuff to make it all happen, right? Yeah.
He made it look real. It's
Hmm.
happening. So
Hmm.
I had to change my venue from the last time because like I was in the witness protection program.
I was messing with you about when
The,
I kept on joking with that.
the comic books were very good for me in my day. You're not supposed to know who he is.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, but that's one of the things about Schomburg. The Brick Bradford cover that he did with the robot
That's
is
another
also
book I'm buying, actually, strangely enough, as you're saying this.
another one.
It's in my shopping cart. I'm actually getting that book, the Brick Bradford one with the
Yeah,
big robot. Yeah, I have that. I'm
that is
actually buying that book right now as we speak.
that my copy of that book, and I'll have to do a Schomburg episode too because I have that really is my forte, and would
Hmm.
be happy to share that with you guys. But
Hmm.
the other thing is that his the robot is so large, and he has the ability to make it look three dimensional by pulling them into the foreground.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he just makes the Human Torch one that he has with the robot works as well. It's just
Hmm.
that's one of his signature things, and it's why I just love his stuff so much. And I'm not.
Yeah.
I do like the other artists as well,
Hmm.
but he was the one that really lit me up.
Hmm.
And when you look at World's Finest, for example, Joe Shuster was unable to keep up with his art production was very slow, and
Hmm.
so they're all John Sakella and any number of other people would do the Superman stories in the style of Schuster. And
Hmm.
so when you look at, I have a whole bunch of posts of World's Finest, the first 17, at least on my Instagram account on my wall, where I go
Hmm.
over that. There's the artists have their own interpretation of Schuster. And when
Hmm.
Schuster did his own thing as far as that goes, it was, you could tell it was him. But it was always interesting that, and World's Finest was sort of like the last trip because there was action and Superman that had to be done, starting, action, Superman, then World's Finest. And it was
Mhm.
sort of the same way with Batman, Detective Batman, and then World's Finest. But you still got both characters in one book, which is pretty darn cool.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the
that's cool.
appearance of the Scarecrow was
Mhm.
in World's Finest too, which was is a great story, and I have that up on my wall as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I wanted to just share these Batmans with you.
No, it's great. It's great. We'll do this again sometime soon.
Sounds good.
Um, so for those people that are watching, if you want to check out and see some of the amazing things in Steven's collection, you can go over to his Instagram, and I'll link it in the description. It's just Collecto6, um, and there's some really amazing stuff there. You gotta check it out.
Thank
And
you.
not only does he post like some comic cover, but he actually shows the interiors and gives a really great summary of each book, which is fun to read. So definitely check him out on Instagram.
Thank you.
Um, Thanks again, Steve, for coming on the show,
The pleasure is mine.
and I'm going to get that room tour out of you soon. So gotta wait for that. Okay,
All
so
right.
bye for now.
Thank you.